Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Janine with Joby Star Astrology. Excuse me, I've got a little frog in my throat today. I have no idea why. Anyway, here today to talk about this full moon. So we have a full moon today, Sagittarius full moon. They're calling it the strawberry moon. I don't really know why. I didn't read into it. You know, that astrology is so vast and you can dive down a million different rabbit holes. And learning about the history and the meaning and why they name the moon, I haven't done all of that. So I don't know why, but it's a strawberry moon. I'm sure it's probably very red. I'll have to go out and check it out. I did not do that last night. But it is a full moon in Sagittarius and in the later degrees of Sagittarius. So we have the moon was at 23 degrees of Sagittarius, hitting the west coast at 4:51 a.m. this morning, east coast 7:51. So we've had a little bit of time to sink into this full moon feeling, Sagittarius sort of aura that is surrounding us, and you may have felt it yesterday. Like I know I did. I felt it yesterday. I was like, all of a sudden, I didn't know if I was coming or going. I didn't know if I wanted to sit still or get busy doing something. Everything was just sort of scattered and all over the place, from 1 minute to the next. Right? I had something figured out, and then I didn't, and then I was confused, and then I wasn't, and then finally I just said, screw it. Like, my mind is on fire, and I'm just going to go to bed. So that's what I did yesterday. I was going to do this video last night, and I didn't because my thoughts were just kind of all over the place. And Sagittarius is kind of known for that, right? Sagittarius is, the 30,000 foot view. And it's big. It can be big and chaotic. It's all over the place. It knows what it's doing, right? Or at least it thinks it does. But it can be all over the place. It doesn't really want to get mired in the details. And that's probably why I was having a hard time with it, because as a Gemini sun and a Gemini rising, and a Gemini, a bunch of other things, I like to get down into the details in my mind and see the logic of things, and Sagittarius just doesn't do that, right? It's kind of funny because I should be familiar with Sagittarius and Gemini energy, and anytime you have a placement in a sign, you have the opportunity, we all have the opportunity to tap into every energy, every sign in the zodiac, and that's the idea, right? So we learn how to balance all of that out. But for me, being a Gemini sun, like I said, and Gemini everything else, Sagittarius is just on the other side, and I have my South Node in Sag and my North Node in Gemini. So I'm supposed to be comfortable with Sagittarius energy, and I am, but I do tend to want to go into the logical place in my mind, right, and figure things out before I absolutely 100% trust anything. And that's not what Sagittarius is about. Sagittarius is about having faith and truth, and connecting to your higher mind, and just sort of knowing and going with the flow, and not getting stuck in the details. So for me, it was a little chaotic yesterday, but today it seems to have balanced out quite a bit for me, and so I'm really glad and happy for that. Hopefully all of you are managing this Sagittarius full moon, however it is that you're able to do that. We're all going to do that a little differently. But one thing for sure, this full moon is an opportunity for us to step back and take a look at the bigger picture, or just, kind of get a case of the efforts, right? If we're used to, being very stressed out about the details. Sagittarius can be fun and joyful and, sort of over the top, right? I mean, it's very extra, so maybe some of you are feeling a little extra, which isn't such a bad thing. Sagittarius, I've never met a Sagittarius that I didn't like in some way. They are funny, they are smart, they are typically larger than life in one way or another. And I just love them. Now, Sagittarius comes in, different flavors, right? So if you notice the first, we call it decans in astrology. So the first decan of Sagittarius, which would be right about the first 10 days of Sagittarius season, those people are the Sagittarius people that you kind of would see, sort of hanging back, sort of, scanning the crowd, sort of, getting the lay of the land, maybe with some dark sunglasses on. They're the real cool ones, cool and a little bit sarcastically funny. They kind of know what's going on, and they just kind of hang back and see the irony in everything. And the second decan of Sagittarius has a little bit of Aries sprinkled in there. So those guys are, they're a little more active, right? Physically strong, physically active, very playful. They can be super, super funny. Listen, Sagittarius people are funny no matter what, but definitely in that area, in that decan. So the second, about 10 days of Sagittarius would have a little bit of an Aries flavor to it. And then there's the third decan of Sagittarius, which is where this full moon is at 23 degrees. And that's a little bit of Leo flavor. So when I say that this full moon could have you feeling extra, it could have you feeling extra. So, extra proud, extra arrogant, extra lazy even. Just a little bit of Leo, however that hits you. And, we all may not be feeling much of anything. Not everybody's feeling everything or anything maybe during this full moon or any other full moon for all that matters. But some of us do feel the cycles of the moon significantly. And especially if you're ruled by the moon. So like Cancer rising or significant Cancer moon or placements are going to be very, very impacted by how the moons move around in general. So I have a friend that's a Cancer rising, and I was talking to her last night, and boy, was she was standing in her truth. She was stating her case. She was ready to rock and roll in a way that I hadn't seen her before, and normally don't see her, but she was just kind of ready to take on the world and anybody that came at her or got in her way, and it was really funny. So the moon cycles can affect people in different ways. As far as full moons go, well, they're going to affect you more significantly if you have a point planet that's very close to the degree of a full moon or any lunar event. And so this one's 23 degrees. So we can say somewhere between 20 degrees and 26 degrees of Sagittarius, Gemini, the mutable signs. We can add one to that, Virgo. You might be feeling this. This is a mutable full moon. So it will affect, potentially, folks with planets, points, or angles in the mutable signs more significantly than others. Now, if you have points on the angles, so the angular houses, so we're talking in the first house, in the fourth house, in the seventh house, and the 10th house, these kinds of lunar events can actually trigger situations, trigger events actually in your life. Now, if you don't believe that, listen, I am all logic, right? That's always how I have been. It's like, you tell me something, it's like, okay, prove it to me, show it to me. I have to see how it works. before I believe it, which is probably a big downfall for me for a lot of years, right? It's like, gotta find faith in something, and gotta see something. Well, let me tell you, predictive astrology is amazing and fascinating and almost not of this world. And so back when I was able to get, or I was getting, some of my first readings from really good astrologers, and they were looking at my chart, and comparing it to the current transits and comparing it to my progressed transits and how all of that was fitting together. I can tell you that when things hit the angles or certain points, from progressions to transits to your natal chart, things actually happen, and it is predictable. And I remember the first time it actually that I actually had an experience like that, where an astrologer said to me, well, X, Y, and Z in the next 2 or 3 months, it's either going to go this way or that way. And I just kind of put it aside. It was super interesting. Loved the reading. Obviously very intrigued with astrology. That's why I decided to learn a lot more about it. And lo and behold, if a few months didn't pass, and what she said actually happened. And I was like, what? Of course, then, me, Gemini mind, I had to test that theory with myself a few more times before I actually was like, okay, fine. All right, so there's some logic to this, there's some truth to this, and it's got me hooked. So if you have points or on the angles significant, these types of lunar events can trigger things. If it's correlating in any way with progressed points, that's another indicator. And also, rolling back and looking at the cycles of the full moons and new moons that were in the same sign in the past, and thinking about like, oh, what was going on with me back then? So in the case of this full moon, we had a new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius, same degree, back in December, on December 4th, 2020. So think about what was going on back then. If you've got points that, or you're feeling something, right? You know how you feel. Like if you feel something's coming, or there are things going around, or familiar things coming up, you'll know it already. But anyway, think back, like what was going on for you back in December of 2020? What started, what came up that maybe you didn't understand, or started to unfold from that point and sort of like build, to a peak, and then start to descend in some way? Is there something ending? Is something coming to light now? Are you seeing the truth of something, right? That's Jupiter. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so that's truth and justice and expansion, right? So that's another way to actually see how these planetary events and these lunar events actually fold into your own personal life. And that's where we can fall into really becoming intrigued with predictive astrology, which I absolutely love. So again, we all may not be feeling this. The moon is about your mood. So we just might feel a little bit more energetic, a little bit happier, right? That's something that a moon in Sagittarius could actually bring to us, which, wouldn't suck, right? We couldn't complain, especially with all the things that are going on these days, that we're just kind of all sort of going, what the heck is going on? Like everything's going like batshit crazy these days. So we can all use a little bit of joy, right? And Jupiter can bring joy and optimism, which we all need. Now, this full moon is squaring, I know, it's like every single lunar event that we've had lately is squaring an outer planet. We had the squares to Saturn during the eclipses, and now we have a square to this full moon in Sag to Neptune in Pisces. And everything that I've been reading about it, of course, and I watch other channels and listen to other astrologers, and it's kind of a mixed bag, but most of them think that that's not such a good thing, right? Oh, because Neptune can sort of cloud our vision. If we're talking about Jupiter, the planet of truth and justice, and all of these things. And then we've got it squaring Neptune, which clouds our vision, causes us, to feel emotional, maybe puts us into some kind of a depression, that this could be bad, right? Or we may not be able to see what's coming or see the truth that's coming at us, or the really big thing that's happening, because Neptune is there sort of, covering our eyes. That's one way to look at it. I think that's entirely possible. But maybe we're not supposed to see some things clearly right out of the gate. Maybe we're supposed to just have faith that things are falling into place. Maybe with a fiery moon like this, right? Sagittarius is a fire sign. And Jupiter, which rules Sag, is in Aries, and that comes into play, which is a fire sign. Maybe we need a little bit of water. Maybe we need to be a little bit behind the veil. Maybe sometimes we don't want to see or we don't need to see quite yet the complete truth of what's going on. The flip side of that too is that maybe Neptune is actually bringing clarity to our subconscious. Maybe it's sharpening our intuition, so that with that 30,000 foot view, that all-knowing, expansive mind that Sagittarius and Jupiter is known for, maybe Neptune is tuning our intuition in, right? And if we are sensitive to that, and we have faith in that, we may be able to see. We might not be able to tell people, right? They might not believe us. I have a Mercury in the 12th house in Gemini, and a lot of things come to me and make sense to me logically, and I can't always say why or how I know that. And I said that my whole life. People are like, well, how do you know that? It's like, I don't know, but I just know, right? So we all have placements in our charts that pull us into our intuition in different areas of our life, and maybe Neptune does that for some of us, right? When we have an opposition, which is what a full moon is, right? The sun opposing the moon in Sag, the sun in Gemini, all about the mind. Gemini saying, no, I gotta have all of the logical details. Sagittarius is saying, no, you don't. Just kind of let it go. And then there's a square off. I mean, obviously with any opposition, like I mentioned with my nodes being in Sag and Gemini, what we need to do is learn to be able to hopefully come in the middle and not weigh either side too heavily, so that we don't, shoot off into a direction that we shouldn't be, right? Sag has a tendency of doing that. Or Gemini, where we can get stuck in the, in overthinking in our logical mind, and actually, maybe make the wrong moves, right? Because, we're moving too quickly. We think we know what's going on, but we've missed, we're not looking at the bigger picture. So Neptune coming in there can kind of put a little water on that, and just sort of say, okay, well, if you can't decide and you don't know which way to go and you're not seeing things clearly, maybe just dip into trust. Trust that what's going on is what's supposed to be going on. And if you can't do that, Neptune is great for creativity. So, music is really good. Get lost in some music. If you're an artist, get lost in a painting. If you like water, get out there and do something in water. Just kind of let things settle, because things will come clear to you at some point. Now that's just maybe how this could be affecting you personally. It's definitely a time for some type of truth to settle in to our lives in some way, or some kind of belief. And I think many of us are rearranging, rethinking our lives and what our beliefs are. A lot of us are doing that. I've done that. I don't always know exactly where I'm going or why. I just know that where in some situations where I came from didn't feel right anymore. So a lot of that is just, following intuition. It's like, that's really how I feel deep down inside. So when you're doing that, I think you're being guided in the direction that you're supposed to be going. And then in the case of this full moon, using a little bit of logic and a little bit of faith to find your way to what the truth is for you, what your path is for you. So that's what the full moon is about, and of course there are mundane things that we can say, we can match up and say, this is what that energy might represent. That's what this combination of planets might represent. And Jupiter and Sagittarius and having Jupiter and Aries, that's like big things happening, right? And a lot of fire energy. So you could say there could be big fires, right? Jupiter rules the law. There could be big scandals and big arrests. There could be big sports events, things like that. Those are kind of like mundane type of things that you can say, kind of have a little bit of fun with. Like, okay, so, what are the examples I can come up with for Sagittarius? Jupiter being in Aries, all of this fire. What's going on today? How does that relate back? You'll be amazed at how many examples you can find at any given time. And it's a really good exercise, especially if you are learning astrology. So that's what's going. That's what the experience of this full moon is, and how it's going to affect you personally. Again, going to be in your chart, and it may not be anything significant. It may just be something subtle, or it may be that you're noticing a change in mood or an event in somebody else's life or in a group you're involved. It just kind of depends. Also, too, Saturn is involved in this full moon in that it is sextiling Neptune. And a sextile is a harmonious energy. We actually, if we feel a nudge, right, Saturn's there to pull you back. So if you're going too far down the rabbit hole, or you're feeling super emotional or sad or, confused, Saturn there with that sextile can sort of bring about something that will instinctively just sort of pull you back into reality and keep you on the straight. Maybe that's what happened to me last night when I was like kind of going all over the place. I don't know, maybe it was my friend Saturn that came in and said, whoa, don't lose your shit. Everything's okay. Just sit back, relax, and like anything else, this too shall pass. So I'm going to go through the zodiac here, and I'm going to tell you what area, and I don't think you're not going to be able to see the chart, which is totally cool, right? But I need to see it, so I can see it on my side, and that way I can, hopefully, the goal here is to tell you where this is going to be hitting in your chart. So what house, what area of life, so that you will know what to look for. And you can't see it like I said, but I'm going to get around here to Aries and tell you where this is at. So for Aries rising, this is for rising signs. If you are an Aries rising, this full moon is happening in your 9th house of the higher mind, of foreign travel, long distance trips, higher education, spirituality, beliefs. You could see something shaken up in that area of life. If you are Taurus, for Taurus rising, this is happening in your 8th house of of shared resources, right? Intimate partnerships, soul connections, anything that you're bonded to. Prime can have something to do with money, but interesting with this Sagittarius, Jupiterian energy here, this might have something to do with a soul contract of some sort. If you are a Gemini, this is happening in Gemini rising. This is in your 7th house of relationships. So I'm a Gemini rising. I'm like, bring it on. I want to know what's going on. What relationship, what partnership. I can think of some things that were going on back in December 2020. So like I'm sitting with bated breath. And what's interesting is if you can read the astrology, a lot of times when you go to read your own astrology and try and piece things together and do those predictions, I think it depends on who you are, but with my mind so connected to my emotions, I can't always see it clearly. So a lot of times I can go, yeah, I think that's what it is, but sometimes I have to wait too. But for Gemini rising, 7th house of relationships and partnerships. If you are Cancer rising, this full moon happening in your 6th house of your day-to-day routines, your health, and your overall work, all the mundane work and things that you have to do in the day-to-day, including how you take care of your body, right? So exercise, diet, things like that. If you are Leo rising, this is happening in your 5th house of joy and pleasure. This is a great place for this Sagittarius energy. You could be really feeling extra, right? extra, especially with this being in the 3rd decan of Sagittarius and having a little Leo in there. Listen, Leo, have fun, but you might want to keep yourself in check. All right. Also, 5th house, joy, pleasure, creativity, children, and romance. So fun place for this for Leo rising. If you are Virgo rising, this is happening in your 4th house. So this is hitting your home and family, where you live, who you live with, where you come from. That is Virgo rising. If you are a Libra rising, this full moon is happening for you where is that? Boy, my eyes, I need to start wearing my glasses. In your 3rd house. 3rd house of communication, so that's all about the mind and short trips, relatives, siblings. Look for some kind of truth or something to get really big there. That's for Libra rising. For Scorpio rising, this is happening in your 2nd house of values, resources, earned income, so finances and value. It can be your own personal value, your own self-esteem. Okay. I think Scorpio rising could use some of that right now. They've kind of been through it with these, with all of the transits to the south node. So if they're getting, if Jupiter's dropping them a little luck in the house of value, I'm really happy for them. Okay, Sagittarius. If you're Sagittarius rising, this is happening in your 1st house of the self, so you could definitely be feeling extra special too, just like Leo. Yeah, you might also, be careful, right? Because this is about the physical body and how you move around, how people see you. So, don't get too crazy, but you should be feeling strong, active, energetic, happy, hopefully. Good place. This is your moon, Sagittarius, so enjoy it. I hope that everybody, listen, have fun. Whatever might be coming down, truths might be expanding, things might be coming, to a close in a cycle. Right now, for today, especially with Neptune pulling you into sort of a dreamier place, saying just, sit back and wait. I've kind of got this handled over here. Wait and see how things shake out. This is a good moon for having a little bit of fun. And so I hope that you're doing that. And I'm grateful that you came to listen. If you have any questions, comments, throw them down below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. The channel's growing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All of the interaction, the likes, the shares, the subscribes really help me as I grow the channel. And yeah, I super appreciate that. If you're interested in a personal reading, head over to my website, jovisstar.com. Send me a message through the contact section, and I'll take a look at your chart. Whether you want to look at your, learn more about your birth chart, right? Or take a look at a relationship, or if you want to look at where some of these types of lunar events or any kind of transits are hitting in your chart, and how it interacts with your progress chart, to sort of see what's coming or what to watch out for, we can certainly do that. I would love to read for you. So happy full moon, happy strawberry moon. Hopefully tonight I'm going to get outside and take a peek at it. That's the plan. But I will see you next time. I still have one more zodiac to do. So if I have any Pisces here that are listening, Pisces, your June horoscope reading is coming, but I did 2 yesterday, and then I usually put one out every day, so I'll do like 2 or 3 on a day and then throw them out. And Pisces was the one I had to do, and I did it, and it was just like wonky. Like I said, my mind was kind of like not in a good place last night. It was all over the place, and I was like, so I scrapped it, and I'm going to do Pisces again, and hopefully it will come out much better. Learning how to sort of prepare or make conversational videos without actually having an audience or a person to have a conversation with has been very difficult for me, but it's practice, which I am doing, and also making sure like I'm kind of in the right mindset and space and things like that. And then I'm sure, it just gets a little bit easier as time goes by, but it is a challenge. It is a challenge. So kudos to all of you out there who are able to just sit down and have a conversation without actually having somebody to bounce back and forth, because it's a bit of a learning curve for me, but I'm getting it. All right, take care. Thanks for coming. I'll see you next time. May the stars forever be in your favor.